Hi everyone, welcome to our energetic connection to the Zohar. We are this week we are at verse 245 in the portion of Vayechi. So it's in my book is verse 130. And let's begin by inviting in the lineage of Kabbalists, the Rabbi Karen and Michael, Rabbi Shlag, Rabbi Brandwein, the Area Kodesh, the Ramchal, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Mezulai, Rabbi Nachum Mendel of Vitebsk, Rabbi Kolonus Shapira Piasetzna, the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and all the students, Rabbi Mordechai of Chernobyl, one soul with Yosef Tzaddik in Shem. Today also is the anniversary of elevation of Rabbi Yaakov Wolf Krantz, the Maggid of Dubna. So we have his assistants on this 17th day of Tevet of Capricorn. So listen, Capricorn is an intense month. So a lot of intense things going on.
It's intense.
It's intense. And just as the moon waxes and wanes, it increasing in intensity, peaking on Wednesday of this week on the 15th. And now it's starting to wane. So, it's still intense, but it's on the downswing. So just to have a conscious of understanding that's what's going on. And it's a month where we're going to get triggered because of the intensity. And so it's a really important time to restrict. And remember, by restricting, we're revealing light and giving ourselves the opportunity to act in a proactive way, act in a way that's more aligned with our souls and our soul's purpose. So that's a lot of what's going on this week and, of course, this month. As we connect to these verses, let's have in mind what's going on in the world. There's still a war going on, and there's still people perishing in that war and casualties. So as we connect to these verses, we want to be conscious of connecting to the flawless universe and channeling the energy of ending the conflict in Israel, of the safe return of all the hostages, energy of protection for all the soldiers who are guarding the innocent lives, and there's a ton of innocent lives being impacted by this conflict. Let's also connect to the energy of removing negativity from our world, connecting to the energy of Ahavat Chinam, unconditional love for everyone, of treating everyone with human decency, energy of healing that for those who need healing. So everyone, let's keep all the people we have in mind, all the people we know. Specifically, healing for Genessa Bat Rachel Dina and Melech David Ben Lillian, and also energy of healing for Dov Bear. I don't know. I'm going to say Ben Sarah because I don't know his mother's name. Also, energy of elevation for Yosef Ben Chaim and Ruth, whose soul is transitioning, and also treating everyone in the world with human decency. Okay, verse 245. So just by way of background, this portion is called Vayechi. It's volume 7. It's a whole volume dedicated to this portion. We've studied this portion from cover to cover. So this is familiar territory. But every time, notwithstanding, every time we look at it, we see something else. And that's just the nature of spiritual study and our spiritual journey. So I have no idea what'll come out of this one. But whatever comes out of it is exactly what we need to study. So the verses, it's based on what the verse, and the days drew near for Israel to, it says literally die, but of course to pass on. So Jacob, the end of Jacob's journey, his soul's journey was coming to an end. And so he was doing a lot of things to prepare the world for his transition. What's so special about him? Well, central column of the 3 columns, Abraham right column, Isaac left column, Jacob's the central column. It's the balance. It's like when we have all 3 columns in balance, we are opening them up, tremendous channels of energy from the upper realm for healing and for peace and for fulfillment in all the ways in which we see our life and the lives of the people around us impacted. So it's a very powerful section. And paradoxically, he passes, but it's called Vayechi, and he lived. So, like, what is that? And we have to remember that, people passing it's an illusion. The soul continues. The soul doesn't end. The soul continues. I remember on this topic, I remember doing a stone dedication for a family member when Mayor Yeshurim was in town, and he handled it. And so he said to the gathered group when we did the stone dedication, he said, the stone is covered, because when you dedicate, the stone's covered, and then you uncover it. And he's like, what do you mean? Why did we cover it? Its stone is there. We know what it says. We know it's there. Why do we cover it? Why do we go through that? Because it's all about revealing things in our realm. And it's about revealing the connection to the soul. And that connection to that soul doesn't end. No matter what's going on, this connection to the soul doesn't end. And our work connecting to the souls that are in our lives doesn't end. It just is a different connection and a different level of responsibility. So those souls that we know that are transitioning, we want to send them energy of comfort on their journey. Okay, verse 245. And we get the benefit of connecting to the energy of Jacob as he began his journey of transitioning, which is extremely powerful. V'ikru yimei Yisrael lamut, Tana Amar Rabbi Chia Ketiv, Vayechi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim shva esrei shana, Hatan b'kiyumei Yaakov, v'hacha b'mitate Yisrael, Dichtiv V'ikru yimei Yisrael lamut. Amar Rabbi Yossi, Hachi hu vadai, V'hala Ketiv v'yikrav Yom Yisrael lamut. Ela yemei v'chi b'chama yomei mit barnash, v'habishata chada b'riga chada mit v'nafek me'alma. Roshan, can you read? Can you guys hear me? Okay. Roshan, can you hear me?
And the days drew by.
Oh, there you go.
We learned that, sorry.
That's okay. Roshan, take it from the top because
we learned that Rabbi, okay, I'm sorry.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. I wish I had that.
Did you want me to start or not? I had echo there and I didn't quite hear you.
Okay. So now
we learned that Rabbi Chia said.
Yes.
It is written, and Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years.
Okay, so can you hear me, Roshan? So again, in the days drew near for Israel to die, that's what it says in this verse from this week's portion. And
right.
And then Rabbi Chia, to help us understand the deeper significance of that verse, brings down an additional verse, and Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So there's you might say, okay, well, that's not telling us anything. But right away, there's a couple things I just want to point out. The first thing is that, I can do some math. So, so the 17 years, this is understanding that, like, when Jacob gets to Egypt, he actually has a conversation with the king, with Pharaoh of Egypt. And he'd never seen someone that old. As the story goes, so he said to him, how has your life been? And Jacob says something like, it's been few days and it's been very, very challenging. And we know his story was challenging. So what is the significance of pointing out that he lived there for 17 years? And Egypt isn't supposed to be such an easy place. But it turns out that there's a hidden code in that sentence. Why tell us 17 years? Because 17 is the same numerical value as the word tov, which means good. And it turns out those 17 years were among the best for Jacob. The 17 years we had a complete family reunion where he lived to see his son Joseph, his precious little son Joseph. It's not a matter of that. Joseph was central column. This is both Jacob's central column and Joseph's central column being connected and united. And all the family living in peace together. I mean, it was a very peaceful, incredibly prosperous time for Jacob and the children of Israel. So, like embedded and hidden in that verse is this energy of positivity, even at in basically the last 17 years of Jacob's life being very positive. So that's one thing we take from this. And that is that for us, we also want to have good years. Like we all have challenges. Jacob had many. Remember, sold into slavery by his brothers, thrown into a pit, thrown in jail. I mean, excuse me, that's Joseph's life. Joseph had all these challenges. And then all of a sudden he ascends to the second most powerful person in Egypt. And Jacob also had challenges. His brother wanted to kill him. His mother sends him away. He meets his soulmates, but his father-in-law is trying to mess him up at any chance he gets. So like and then Jacob, there was the problems he had with his daughter Dinah, who was taken captive and raped by a neighboring tribe. And then Shimon and Levi go in and they wipe out the whole tribe. And it's like a huge embarrassment for Jacob. He now feels threatened himself because of the other people in the land after seeing that. And then he's told Joseph is dead. So like Jacob also had all these terrible challenges. Again, you can say from a certain perspective that these challenges shape their characters, and that's true. But in a much deeper way, and this is for us to understand, it's not just a matter of shaping our character. That's true. But that's like at a surface level. In a much deeper level, the things that happen in our life are not things that are happening to us. There are things that are happening for us. And we need to always try and connect at a soul level to understand we ask for this life and we ask for assistance in growing our vessel, in expanding our vessel, in connecting to our soul and manifesting the best version of ourselves in our life in this lifetime. And to do that requires work. And so those challenges are affording us the opportunity to do that work, as painful as they are. And they are painful. We didn't come here to suffer, but we are definitely in pain. But how we view it, what our mindset is, what our perspective is in embracing those challenges determines whether those challenges are going to work for us or work against us. And we want to use them to work for us. And so that's what Jacob has come into in the last 17 years of his life. That's the first thing. Second thing is, like, yes, please. You can make it a slow question.
Okay, so what we're describing here is that when people talk about we work on ourselves, it's not an intellectual exercise only. It's a connection to the upper world.
Yes, but for some people, it's just work on themselves.
Right, but I mean, we have
when you're on this path. Yes, when you're on this path, yes, it's the work. It is work on ourselves, but it's deeper than that. It's, again, there is a perfected version of ourselves at the soul level. We're trying to manifest that. Why? Why do I have to go through that effort? The world is depending on it. We all came here to reveal gifts. When we reveal our gifts, we help to perfect the world.
Thank you. That's
what we're here for.
Helpful.
What's that? It's fair. It is powerful. Yeah, in your words, it's very powerful. And it's like, so I don't want to get too hung up. I'm like, I can't believe I got to do this. Well, someone called me up and asked me to do what I thought was an impossible task yesterday. And I'm like, I had to remind myself that I need to make the effort. I don't, I mean, was it possible? Okay, so first of all, it's not impossible. No one's going to ask you to do anything that's impossible. So right away, I'm like, I need to reset my mindset on what's going on. It's not impossible. It might be challenging. It's not impossible. So we get confronted with of course, we're getting challenged. That's what's going on. Of course, it's not, if you don't think it's impossible at some level, it's not a challenge. The more impossible it seems, the bigger the challenges, the more light there is to be revealed. There's like a minute. I wish I could go into detail, but I ended up saying, okay, listen, you're going to make the effort. So I made the effort. I thought it through. I'm like, well, I would, if I could do this, I would need
Why don't you just go that way?
and I need that assistance. And so like I started like making calls to see if I could get the assistance that I would need to complete the project. And some things came through and some things didn't, but I was like, I was still prepared to do it. At the end of the day, I was told it wasn't necessary. So it wasn't really a matter. I didn't have to do it. That wasn't the challenge. The challenge was overcoming my own limitations in even attempting it. And being prepared to go through to the, go through to the end. I have to read what Suzanne just wrote. Challenge equals overcome the impossible. Yeah, and let's start with not calling it impossible. That was the first thing I had to get over. And I'm saying to myself all along, this is a big ask. Yes, it is a big ask. Now what are you going to do? So
That's a lot.
The second thing about these first two verses is, in the first verse, and days drew near for Israel to die, we know that's Jacob. He's called Israel. And in the second verse, and Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. He's called Jacob. Which is he? Split personality? I mean, what's going on here? Why does this go back? Abraham and Sarah didn't start off as Abraham and Sarah. They started off as Abram and Sarai. And then when they ascended into their more perfected self, manifesting the best versions of their souls in the world, they got name changes. Well, Jacob also got a name change. He went from Jacob to Israel. But if you read this book, and I mean the book of creation, Breshit, even after he gets his name changed, and that happens when he wrestles with the angel. So after the name change, it still bounces back and forth. And why is that? And I think this is really powerful. And I know our teachers have been talking about this forever. But it's still like I'm having a hard time with this sinking into my thick skull. You guys are probably much better at this. Here goes. Israel is the name of the elevated aspect of Jacob. Jacob is the name of the less elevated aspect. And it bounces around because he's doing very elevated things and less elevated things. And so it's not just random. There's nothing random. Nothing random in the Torah. And there's also nothing random in our lives. So it's bouncing around like there's not a random way, but to give us the opportunity to see that even Jacob was at times in a higher elevated consciousness and a less elevated consciousness. His less elevated consciousness is still way above the mean. I'm going to get to you in a second, Suzanne. I just want to make a point. And so, do we experience that? Do we experience elevated consciousness and lower consciousness? Yes, we do. Are we aware of it? Not always. Can we be aware of it? We should try to be aware of when we're in elevated consciousness. And I'm just going to give you this example. When we're thinking a task is impossible, that is a lower consciousness. And when we realize it's a big ask, but it's not impossible, that is an elevated consciousness. And we start taking steps in the way, and then all of a sudden, the little voice in your head is, "What are you, nuts? How could they ask you that?" That's lower consciousness. It's a trap we're going to fall into all the time because the opponent is in our heads. And we have to say, wait a second, that's the opponent. It's not my elevated consciousness. It's not my soul consciousness. So it's happening all the time. And the greater awareness we develop as to when we're in an elevated consciousness and when we're in a lower consciousness, the better able we are to not only navigate life, but the better able we are to manifest blessings. Because I can tell you at the end of the day, when I figured out how I was going to get that task completed, and then I was told I didn't need to, I know that it revealed a certainty in that it revealed tremendous light. Certainty about that. And so that's the challenge. That's what we have to do. This was going on with Joseph in all his ups and downs, mostly downs. And until he was in prison, it was almost like one step worse than the next before he bounced spiritually and elevated tremendously. It's like the bigger the challenge, the greater the opportunity is to reveal light. And our teachers say that all the time. It's like, I hear that, but am I experiencing that? Well, we definitely have the opportunity to experience that in all things that are going on around us as we navigate life, as we navigate relationships, as we navigate our consciousness and what mindset we're going to use to tackle a challenge. Am I going to look at the challenge as impossible? Or am I going to look at it as like, let's see what kind of help I can get. Let's see if I can get the resources I'm going to need. Let's see what I can do to even up the score, to put myself in a position to actually get this done and succeed with this task. Suzanne?
Yeah, I'm just here to validate. I mean, I've been listening to this portion for I don't know how long, right? And you hit it home this morning, or I guess we're in afternoon now, but yeah, I mean, the fact that you just said, I woke up and I felt like something was impossible, and that's the whole crux of this. And then it's like the light bulb went off, right? Just, that's the essence of this week. That's the essence of the possibility. The bigger the challenge, the bigger it seems to be more impossible is really where I don't know, I just see it differently because of that sharing. So thank you.
You're welcome. Really, and like there will be, thanks for sharing that. And there will be times where we just got to go through the motions. Like, it's like, I just got to show up. I don't know how I'm going to figure this out. I just got to show up. I'll take it one step at a time. You know, there's a part of us always that which just wants to run for the hills and stick our head under our pillows and hope it goes away. But it's not going away. Sticking on your head under your pillow is not going to make it go away. We have to find ways to navigate. And there's all kinds of assistance. On a 1% level, we just want to adjust our consciousness. And at a 99% level, we want to ask for help. Invite the light in. And then listen to the guidance that we get. We're getting guidance all the time. As did Jacob and as did Joseph. So this connection with this portion is very significantly about this reunion of Jacob and Joseph. They're reunited. And that creates tremendous positive energy for the world. It ends the years of famine. Remember, when Jason interprets Pharaoh's dream, he says there's going to be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. When Jacob shows up in Egypt and is reunited with Joseph, famine ends early release. So like there's tremendous blessings available to us through this portion, and always in our present day, when we're aligned with our soul, when there's balance between right and left, and then we have this access through the central columns to channel all kinds of blessings. And again, it's going to come to us in the form of a challenge. Another way of looking at our life's challenges is, I want to reveal some light. I want to reveal light in the world. I need to manifest fulfillment in some area of lack. So, okay, well, how's the universe going to help us? It's not coming by Amazon, like everything else. It comes in a challenge. Big challenge, big light. Okay, keep going, Roshan.
In his life, it is written Jacob, and in his death, it says Israel. Yet the name Israel is more elevated than the name Jacob. Rabbi Yossi said, surely it should have been said here Israel, for it does not say the day drew near, but the days. This is difficult to understand, for a man does not die in several days. Within 1 hour, one moment, he dies and passes away from the world.
Okay, so this verse is focusing on this distinction between Jacob's name Israel and Jacob's name Jacob, and we see that, as we know, Israel is a more elevated aspect. But in the title verse, it says, "And the days drew near," as opposed to the day. And the point is always making, like, you don't pass over days. You pass at a moment. The soul exits the physical plane. And, there's always opportunities when that happens for the rest of us who feel that void. There's opportunities for us and we should always be thinking about sending that soul on that journey, sending that soul energy of assistance and comfort in that journey, because it's a very uncomfortable journey to detach from physicality. And at a certain level, it is happening over days. Because I don't know if the Zohar is going to go into it or not. We'll see. But there is a certain process. Let's see what the Zohar is telling us about that distinction. You leave at a moment. So why does it say days are approaching? 246. Elahachi tana kad kucha brichu bai labata ruchele kol inun yomin de kaem barnash b'hai alma it pakdan kame ve'alin bechushbana v'chad it karivu kame lemei al bechushbana mit barnash ve'atev kucha brichu ruchele how hevel de apek v'nafach be otve legabe. Roshan. Where's Roshan? She's gone. Wait, she's coming back. Roshan, can you hear me? Okay. Can you read 2.6? The English.
Sure. Yeah, my internet died. I had to reconnect.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's Friday. These things happen all the time on Friday.
That's okay.
It's the Shabbat, like sort of.
Shabbat, it's the energy. It's all right.
Right. Okay, 246. He answers, we have so learned that when the Holy One, blessed be he, wishes to take back to him the spirit of man, all the days the man lived come before him and are counted.
Okay, so what the Zohar is telling us is that when the time comes for a soul to elevate, all the days of his life come before him, the creator, and are counted. Kind of like he doesn't know the total. We got to pull out an Excel spreadsheet and figure out the number of days. They count, meaning they matter. They matter. All the days. Which reminds me, I was at a business conference this week, and it wasn't so much a business conference as it was a halachic business conference. So the business conference was dedicated to Jewish laws, Kabbalistic laws that inform business people about how to conduct their business lives. Fascinating. And one of the things that came up is like when people shared, people do their connections multiple times a day, and it feels like I'm checking the box. So they asked one of the people there for some insights into how to create more meaningful prayer. Long story short, there are plenty of resources on that, but one of the things that was shared with me in the sidebar was this idea that when you are engaged in prayer, in connection, one of the things you can do with your consciousness is to just imagine that the Creator is watching you. And so if the Creator's watching you, so like, think about like when you're alone in your house or home, and when there's people around, when there's people around, there's a different level of awareness. There's a different consciousness when there's people around than when you're alone. And when you are connecting with the universe through prayer, this idea that the Creator is actually watching you is just a way to elevate your consciousness. Now, the truth is, though, the Creator is not just watching you when you're in prayer. The Creator is watching you 24/7, and that's what this is about. Everything we do is of significance. Well, what about the times I fell? We studied that portion last week. Creator knows we're going to fall. Creator, in creating the universe, in creating man, did it with the understanding that we're going to fall on a pretty consistent basis. It's not a matter of the fact that we fall. It's a matter that we need to pick ourselves up. It's a matter that those challenges which knock us down are giving us the opportunity to work on manifesting our souls, manifesting the best version of ourselves. And so back to paragraph 246, the days count and all the days count because the Creator's always watching. And it's a really important consciousness to have. This is not about us beating ourselves up. It's not about that. It's just this idea that we do have a relationship with the light. And part of that relationship is the fact that we understand that we are being watched at all times. Okay.
Okay. When the days draw near him to be reckoned, the man dies, and the Holy One, blessed be he, takes back to himself the spirit of man, that breath which the man breathes in and out.
Which is an interesting way to describe it. Because we are constantly breathing in and out. When the Torah describes the creation of man, it's described as the Creator breathing life into him. And so, part of how we know we're alive is we're breathing. Part of how we know someone else is alive is if they're breathing. Like, it's so taken for granted, but it is so going on 24/7. We're constantly interacting with the physical world around us through breath. And there's deep, deep significance to that breath. The other thing is that the Zohar describes the soul elevating as takes back to himself the spirit of man. And so part of what we have the opportunity to understand in this section is that there within us is the spark of the Creator. That's what the Creator is taking back. The spark of the Creator that is within each of us. So this idea that we, experience low self-esteem at times ignores the fact that there's a spark of the Creator within. Imagine you had in your pocket, a rare, precious gem worth $1 million. Some kind of, rare diamond. It's worth $1 million. I mean, you think you would be able to forget that it's in your pocket? No, you'd be there. You constantly check it. You make sure there's no hole in your pocket. I mean, you'd be very well aware that you had that priceless gem in your pocket. Yet, the fact that we have the spark of the Creator inside of us, we completely overlook all the time. There is a priceless gem embedded in us. And another thing that was, I think, helpful for us to remind ourselves of when we engage in what's going on in our life that we're literally, there's a spark of the Creator within us that has to go on this journey. And we're the ones charged with taking that spark of the Creator through this unique journey that is our life. Okay, 247. Zekach ulake dahu barnash, diyomoy it krivu gabel malka, bela kisufa, bela dache yoma minaihu levar, diish kach behau yoma, de it aved be chova, de ginkach kativ tzadikaya kriva, mishum de karivu yomoy kame malka, bela kisufa. Roshan, can you hear me? She's frozen up again. Ellen, can you pick up where she left off at 247?
Can I read it? Can I read
Yes,
it?
Andy,
Ellen, you
absolutely.
okay with that? That's okay. Happy is the portion of the man whose days draw near the king without reproach, and none is pushed out for containing a transgression committed in it.
Okay, so happy is, so first of all, right away, just so we're clear, this is connecting to the energy of happiness. And even though we may experience sadness, even though we are experiencing challenges, even though it's difficult to connect to this energy of joy, and let me just point out, during the most joyous times of the year, it's very difficult to connect to the energy of joy. But we have it right here. That's happy. This is us connecting to energy of joy and happiness. Well, I don't feel it. Right. Well, you might feel it, but hopefully we all feel it. It's internal. And this is like such, on the one level, a very simple, on another level, this is a deep concept. The joy does not come from externals. And I don't mean watching Seinfeld reruns isn't joyous. It is, whatever it is, whatever comedy you like to watch, or whatever thing you like to do that's fun. Yes, it does create joy, but that joy is internal. And we always want to work to create internal joy, not based on externals. Yes, externals help. Externals can actually ignite that joy, but it's still joy within. And no matter what's going on, even in times of sadness, we want to maintain our connection to happiness and joy. So even within all these challenges that Joseph and Jacob had, they still had this ability to maintain that connection. And we also get the power of maintaining that connection to internal joy through this section. So as the Zohar is going on to say, you know, living a full life and having happiness over that fullness of life is not the fact that there were times when we fell, and this word's transgressions. In spite of the fact there were times we fell, that is not taking away from the joy and happiness of the length of our days. We can allow it to. It's easy. It's only natural for us to allow those times we fell to limit our happiness. But they're, to some degree, to a very important degree, they're not connected. And I've heard our teachers say, we want to maintain joy and happiness even in the face of the things that are going on in our lives. Like, it's not contradictory to be happy and sad at the same time. So there's great power here in understanding that we came here on this mission, on this life mission, to reveal our souls, to manifest the best version of ourselves, to reveal our gifts in the world. And even though we fall along the way, it doesn't detract from the mission or our ability to appreciate that we're here doing what we can. Your soul's journey is not an impossible task. How much of it you will get done is also not the point as much as we can. We will fall and we're going to bounce back. Doesn't take away. It's like we're so linear in our thinking. It's like, did I score in the 70s, 80s, or 90s in life? It doesn't get scored that way. Even though the days count, as we read in verse 246, they do count. But it's every life is, to a certain degree, is a success from a spiritual standpoint to the degree that we were elevating our souls in this lifetime. It's not quantitative, it's qualitative. We're trying to advance the world, and we do that by manifesting our souls. And with what little time I have left, among the most important ways we manifest our souls is aligning ourselves with our souls. It's not being who your friends, parents, partners think you should be. It's being who you are. It's being you. And if the people around you don't appreciate that, that's on them. You still have to be you. That's the goal. That's the job. Yeah, I know, but what if people don't like me? It's not a matter of that. Then they're the wrong people. But the more we work on being ourselves, the more we will naturally, vibrationally, energetically attract the people in our lives who are aligned with who we are, who will appreciate who we are. And listen, and you look at Joseph, he's completely misaligned from his brothers. But his journey was about doing his work and manifesting the best version of who he was. And at the end, not only is he reunited with his brothers and reunited with his dad, he becomes one of the most powerful people to ever walk the earth because he became who he was. And ultimately, that's the power of this section for us as we connect to the energy of Jacob, as we connect to the energy of Joseph, and ultimately as we connect to our own internal energy and our own unique set of gifts that we're here to reveal for the world. Okay, we're out of time.
Can I finish the last sentence?
Yes,
The reason
please.
the words drawing near are used in relation to the righteous is that the days draw near the king without reproach. Got it in.
There you go.
Thank you. Great
Thank you,
portion.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Shabbat
Thank you.
shalom. Love you all. Have a great
Shabbat
weekend.
shalom.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
See y'all soon.
Happy New Year. Thank you so much.
Happy New Year.
Have a great
Awesome.
weekend. Happy New Year, guys.
You too.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.